guys, welcome back to the channel. Something I've always wanted to say, but in reality, welcome back to Marching Arts Network Television. My name is Kanan, and I'm happy that you've come back to look at part number 2 of our Squeaky Bum Time series. So what is Squeaky Bum Time? Those who know me know that I live in the UK. I have been here for 23 years now, and in that time I've learned how to speak English the way that it was kind of intended to be spoke. So what I've discovered in my time here is that the United States and the UK are two countries separated by language. Yes, we both speak English, but the English here is completely different. So what you might think of as a bum being a guy in the street corner asking for money, here is actually your backside, also known as your ass. And what is squeaky bum time? Well, squeaky bum time happens when you're under a bit of stress and you start to get that little bit of ass sweat, and it gets there kind of between the cheeks. You get the sound. That being said, when do you get squeaky bum time? Well, you get squeaky bum time when the difference between ending your season on Friday night and Saturday night is 1/10 of a point. And that's what we'll be looking at in today's video, which will feature the Crossmen and the Colts from 2014. Two diametrically different shows, one a very traditional drum corps show and one very much so outside of the box. Before we look at that, however, we're going to take a very quick look at what happened the previous year, because whilst 2014, the difference between finals and not finals was 1/10 of a point, it was damn near as close in 2013, where it was 0.125 of a point. And that particular battle was between the Blue Stars and the Troopers. So what we'll do is we'll have a really quick look at the, I suppose you could call them the honorable mentions, if you will, for the list, and then we'll get into the main event. Before we do that, however, what I'd like to say is at the time of me recording this video, we have, hold on a second, 1,981 subscribers. We are 19 subscribers away from 2,000. Now, I appreciate that in the ecosystem of YouTube, 2,000 ain't that big of a deal. It's a massive deal for me and Justin. We went through a patch of rebranding the channel about a month ago. So in that time, we've gained a bunch of new followers, and I would love nothing more than this weekend to hit that magic 2K mark. And that's where you can help. And that is basically, if you're watching this, if you like what we do and you've not subscribed, all I'm asking is hit the subscribe button. It costs you absolutely nothing. If you like what I'm doing, or if you think I'm a complete fool and talking out of my squeaky bum, then by all means, there's a comment section below. Would love to hear from you. But first things first, let's have a look at 2013. So we will look at, I'm just going to waffle on here for just a little bit while I try to figure out what the hell I've done with the videos. Probably just pop this on pause for a second and get myself in order. And hopefully you didn't even notice that I hit pause there. Right, so the first thing we're going to look at is the Troopers. Troopers came in 13th place. Missing finals by 0.125 of a point. The show that year was the Magnificent 11. Pretty classic Troopers show, I think, and a show that I really enjoyed. Do I think it deserved to make finals? Well, I'll let you know my thoughts after we watch both of them back to back. So first things up, we'll look at 2013 Troopers. Sorry about that. It helps if I have the sound on. Classic Troopers look with a modern twist. Battle Hymn of the Republic. What's not to love? this up a little bit so I can hear it better. I actually really liked this look for the Troopers. It was the Troopers color palette with a bit of modern twist on it. I think the fit of the uniform could have been a bit better, but I did like the look. Thumbs up if you miss uniforms. Classic Troopers look, classic sunburst, a nod to their history. Absolutely love it. So 2013 Troopers there. For those who maybe are new to the activity or just don't know what the significance of 11 with the Troopers is, the original Troopers uniform was based, well, I wouldn't say it was a carbon copy of, but it was certainly inspired by that of the 11th Ohio Cavalry, which were, well, they were most notably famous from their time post the American Civil War on the Wyoming frontier. So next up, we'll have a look at the Blue Stars from the same year. Blue Stars show was Voodoo, I Put a Spell on You. I think it was just a completely different show than what the Troopers put out. It was very much so modern drum corps. Yeah, and so let's have a quick look at the Blue Stars. Keeping with the theme, I don't know if you noticed the Judge Voodoo doll hanging off the trap there. You wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley. So there you go. That was Blue Stars from 2013. The big difference there being percussion. It was percussion that got them over the line into finals. That percussion section was headed up by some guy called John Mapes, who I believe teaches some high school in Chino Hills, and also has been pretty successful with some WGI group called Pulse Percussion. Yeah, in all seriousness, they had an all-star drum staff that year, and it definitely showed in the product they put on the field. So which one of the two do I think should have made finals? Mind you, this is just my personal opinion. There's no hate here or anything like that. I actually quite liked both shows. For me, it's Blue Stars. It's Blue Stars 8 days out of the week. I think that the Troopers had a really nice show. I do think that the end of the show, from a design standpoint, was quite slow to develop, and it almost sounded like after the sunburst that the brass line especially just kind of ran out of gas a little bit. So, and when you're talking the difference of 0.125 of a point, there's not much in it, and it doesn't take that much, if you will, to be the difference between ending your season on Friday night and ending your season on Saturday night. Either way, both great drum corps, but my shout for that one would be the Blue Stars. So I do think that the judges got it right. Right. So next up, we'll look at our main event. We will start with the 2013 or the 2014, my apologies, 13th place corps, which is the Colts. All right, so we'll look at the 2014 Colts. Both the videos I'm going to show you, unfortunately, I was unable to find a HD version of the show for either corps. So I do apologize, slightly not the most highest quality video, but I think it's enough that we can work with. The difference between the Colts and the Crossmen was, in fact, 1/10 of a point. Two very, very different shows from each other. So the first one here was a very polarizing show amongst the fan base. That of course being Dark Side of the Rainbow. Music was based around that of Pink Floyd. And yeah, I personally really like this show. Some of the big criticisms of the show would be around the amount of narration. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think that narration for the sake of narration, I'm not a big fan of. That being said, narration in a show where it's well designed and is impactful into the show, I do think is a good thing. And this particular show, I think you'll agree once you've watched it, simply wouldn't have existed without the narration. But, and I'll try to point this out as we go, there were parts of that narration that I think may have ultimately cost them finals, and I'll touch on that in a bit. So next up then, we'll look at the 2014 Colts from Dubuque, Iowa. And here we go. I got to be honest, I was never a big fan of that uniform. I'm not a big fan of gradients for one thing, because you lose the gradient once you get about 10 rows up in the stands. And I think they just looked like they were all wearing a sports bra. I think the idea was good. I just don't think it was particularly executed well. Very characterful show.
Drum majors Jason Schubert and Cole Hannon. Is your corps ready? Performing their 2014 program, Dark Side of the Rainbow. Drum Corps International is proud to present the Colts.
Somebody sat Brant too close to those PA speakers.
The winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this sun of ours, and all the clouds that lord upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. My apologies to old Willie Shakespeare, but his prose are so ironically appropriate to the present circumstances of which I find myself. And then one day you find 10 years have gone behind you. No one told you when to run. You have missed the starting gun.
Always liked the effect of playing to the backfield. Also always thought that big tarp hanging down must not particularly be helpful to backfield playing.
Presented me
That's
with
got to
knowledge.
absorb a lot of sound.
That is when my rise began. It was when Dorothy left. I will never know why the wizard left all three of us in charge. A foolish miscalculation.
Great ensemble brass sound. Really solid bottom end too.
It's all for the better. The way I see fit. Easy to achieve when you come down to it. Took the lion out in battle with a superior brain. Then broke the heart of the Tin Man. Told him Dorothy loved only me. Oh, what a pain.
So it should be noted, looking at the recaps, the percussion came in for Colts, came in 17th at semifinals. I don't see a 17th place drum line there, sorry. Crossmen, I think, were 12th in percussion. I don't see 5 places difference between the two.
Alas, my dear friends, beware that you do not lose the substance while grasping at shadows. Shadows, 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 shadows. But beware, but beware, but beware, but beware, but beware. Beware of the shadows, beware of the shadows, beware of the shadows, beware of the shadows. The lion was easy. The Tin Man not hard. Their deaths had to happen. Everybody has to play their part. I got just what I wanted. And I'll pay for my sins. Because the truth of the matter is, those people, they were my friends.
A little bit maddening that it's taken this far in the show to get the color guard up front. Pretty clean da-da-da-da in the trumpets there.
So put your shoulder to the lever and your back to the grind. Emerald City's been changed, the trains are running on time.
A little bit muddy in the baritones there. And again, we're talking about a 1/10 of a
So no
point,
ha-ha-has,
guys.
no hee-hee-hees, and none of them la-di-das. So it's work, cause it's me that's running on.
I nice effective use of the body line there, though. But granted, like I said, I think that I pointed out before the show started about the uniform. I think you just lose all the color. Now, granted, I appreciate this is a high definition recording, but it kind of proves my point. Imagine you're sounding at the top of the stadium, you lose all that color. And the other thing you lose, though, from the top of the stadium is all of the character acting parts that the guy doing the narration is. You lose that after about 10 rows up.
My little pretties do not see me, see them. Sneaking through the tunnels of Oz. Climbing up stone stairs towards the tower. What do my little minions have in mind, sneaking up to a room filled with dust and bad memories?
Don't know what happens with the color in this part of the video. This isn't me, by the way, this is just the video. The color does come back. Do you like the brass writing here, though?
Dorothy, your parting was such sweet sorrow. But now I know that it's not power, but you I loved. We all did. It was you who brought the cup and magic to Oz.
Thinking forward 2 years, this part is just desperately needing some
I was
trombones.
once your sweet prince, but now my soul is adrift. Be careful what you wish for. I got knowledge but lost wisdom. It's time to leave Oz. I must find her to find myself.
I got knowledge but lost wisdom. I like that.
All that you touch, all that you see, all you feel, all you deal, all that you destroy, all that you create, all that is to come, and everything under the sun.
like how we're intertwining the melodies of We're Off to See the Wizard and Somewhere Over the Rainbow into there. All right, so that is the 2014 Colts. I realize I maybe sound like I'm being a bit critical, and I'm genuinely not. I genuinely like that show, but if I'm looking for that tenth of a point, that's the reason I'm mentioning the things that I'm mentioning. Places where I can potentially see that tenth of a point. GE. Uh, this show should have been a GE monster, and it wasn't. It was very well. It was commensurate with its placement. I think they were 12th in GE. Um, and the show, as I see it, should have been a lot more GE centric than it was. Where did we lose that GE? I think there was a couple of things. Number one, visually, the whole show just seemed a little bit slow, if you will. Um, it's like we're building musically, but we're not getting that same build that is coinciding with the show visually. So that would be one place. And another place, I kind of mentioned it while we were watching it, and that would be the actual narration itself. And it's not the narration as such, it's how the narration was staged. And what I mean by that is uh, uh, the throne, if you will, that he sits on. It sits on the number two or number one side of the field in the pit. I think that should have been actually probably out into the field. Okay. Number two, the guy doing the narration. I wish I knew his name. I don't, and I wish I kind of knew his backstory. But clearly, he's an actor. Okay, and he does a lot of actor things, a lot of stuff with his hands, facial expressions, and a lot of that stuff is very, very subtle. And what you have to remember when we're designing a drum corps show, we have to design that drum corps show to be just as impactful to the guy sat way up in the top of the stadium in the cheap nosebleed seats as the guys that are sat in the perfect seats in the bottom bottom bowl. And I think that you lose a lot of the visual effects because a lot of what he was doing was visual, and you lose that once you get past probably about 20 rows up in the bottom bowl. So a way that perhaps that could have been alleviated was to stage him more central in the show instead of having him, like I said, down in the front ensemble, where quite frankly a lot is just going to be visually missed. Where do you watch? Do you watch the core? Do you watch the front ensemble? Do you watch the color guard? And that leads me to my third point. If we're looking for that tenth of a point, is color guard. Color guard was hardly featured in this show, and this show should have been, again, it should have been kind of a color guard monster show. I don't know what the reasoning was. I don't know what the thought process was behind that. Again, guard, they placed about roughly with around where they finally placed, 13th, 14th, something like that. So again, that guard could have been more better integrated into the show. It didn't look like a particularly big guard as well, so maybe that's part of the reason why we kind of didn't feature them as much. But and then the guard work that they were doing, through my relatively untrained guard eyes, didn't seem particularly dynamic work. Um, so yeah, and then the final thing, and I think this will become more apparent when we watch the Crossmen, is this core sounded like a core that came into semifinals in 13th place, and There was parts of the show that they sounded very reserved, and there was parts of the show where they sounded like they were trying to be a bit of a hero and make that leap into finals. Whereas when you watched, so there was just a general tightness, if you will, within the musicians, and I think that you'll hear that difference when you hear the Crossmen. Again, none of that is trying to be super hypercritical. Again, just looking, where is that tenth of a point, and it could have been in any one of those places. So next thing we're going to look at now for a comparison is the corps that placed 12th, and that of course being the Crossmen.
Performing their 2014 program, On the Katana, a Gypsy Soul. Drum Corps International is proud to present the Crossmen.
Crossmen have always been really good with outfitting the corps, from the look and the color guard. I absolutely love this particular Crossman uniform as well. Again, thumbs up if you miss uniforms. I do. I don't hate costumes, I just miss uniforms. That's what I'm talking about, that difference in the brass sound. They sound loose, they sound relaxed. Guard is featured right up front. Sorry, I take that back what I said about the Colts percussion. I do see 5 places difference. Again, loose, just they have a bit of a swagger to them. Visually, we're transitioning between forms in 4 to 8 counts, as opposed to 8 to 12 and sometimes 16 in the Colt show. My background in the activity sits primarily around brass and visual design. I'm a firm believer that design is half the battle. Emmanuel. For those who don't know, this piece of music was featured in a, well, how should we say, a movie of the same name. It's not exactly a safe for work movie. Let's just leave it at that. A little bit of trivia for you there. It's definitely not safe for work. Still a beautiful piece of music. More of that swagger I was talking about. Just that difference between being loose and being tense and stressed. Having a squeaky bum, should I say. Really like as well how the Crossmen have a really solid use of their color palette through the whole show. Platform didn't quite hit. I like the drill here. always thought Carmen translates well to the drone corps field. On to their 40th anniversary there. Who doesn't love a good park and park? So there you go. 2014 Crossman. 1/10 of a point. Nah, don't see a tenth of a point there. That's a 2-point difference right there. And I should say something that I've been keeping from you this entire video.
Got him! Got him!
Whilst the spread between 13th and 12th was 1/10 of a point, Crossman here almost penaltied their way into semifinals. So they actually had a 1-point penalty in this show. I'm not sure what it was for. The only thing I've heard that it was a boundary issue. So I'm wondering if it was maybe the props on the back sideline. But yeah, so in fact, it was actually 1.1 points if you take away the penalty. And Crossman, in fact, actually increased their score the next night, which is pretty uncommon for DCI finals, when we traditionally have a bit of a spike at semifinals and then usually a drop off at finals. Historically, if you look at the scoring, that's pretty much how it always is. So in reality, this wasn't a 1/10. This was actually at least a 1.1. And if you ask me, it was probably more, should have been more like 2 points, really. In all fairness, though, the Colts, they brought it. They brought the fight to Crossman. You know, the Colts had been trailing the Crossman score-wise the entire season between 2 and 5 full points, and in fact, the spread at quarterfinals was nearly 2 points. So, if nothing else, they bridged that gap back, and then, like I said, you know, Crossman, but for a 1/10 of a point, almost because of a penalty, didn't perform on Saturday night. And yeah, so who do I think should have made finals? I think the Crossman should have made finals. Whose show did I like better? I liked the Crossman's show better. Whose show idea did I like better? Colts. I just don't think it was executed particularly well. And again, that's not executed from a performer standpoint. I think the performers did what they could with what they had. I don't think it was designed particularly well, and I think that was the difference. And that is it for this particular episode. If you think I am talking out of my backside, please let me know in the comments section below. And while you're down there, be one of the magic 19 to get us over 2,000 subscribers. If you're not a subscriber already, would love it if you could hit the subscribe button. That's all for this episode. I'm going to be dropping parts 3 and 4 over the next 2 days. I hope you enjoyed it, and whatever you do, whoever you are, whatever you're marching, or whoever you're marching with, just make sure that you march on.